And so I believe in the power of stories to create a more inclusive world because I envision a world where every single person embraces their story. Well, I think you have to be in a space where authenticity is celebrated and wanted, not in a fall Paul kind of way, not in a, yeah, just be yourself. But then the moment you be yourself, you're policed, you're ostracized, you're demeaned, dehumanized, right? And so authenticity is my superpower. Every day I choose to be myself. Every day I wake up and choose to be my feminine self, my masculine self, my disabled self, my brown self, right? My queer self. Because I'm all those things in totality, right? And so when you allow people to show up and be seen for exactly who they are, not only do they produce their best work, but they are more driven to work harder for an organization that values them and doesn't force them to fragment themselves. We are human beings. We're not meant to be incomplete sentences. Fragmentation does not work. In that same breath, though, I would say that authenticity doesn't mean you have to show all of who you are in the workplace. Right? There are parts of yourself that don't need to be in the workplace. But the truth of the matter is, you get to decide what parts of yourself you're ready to share and what parts of your story you're ready to own and share publicly. Ever since I was a little boy, I felt like an outsider because of my disability. My mom gave birth to me at 5.5 months. I weighed 1 pound. I have a condition called cerebral palsy, and I couldn't play physical education with like the rest of the students at times. And I found comfort in my black and white marble journals and in my Harry Potter books. And I became a writer because I wanted to create a world where someone like me could belong. And it was in the pages that I wrote, in the poems, in the song lyrics, and the essays, in the screenplays and play scripts that I saw myself reflected. And it was in that recognition that I can create a world where my story matters, where your story matters, where our stories matter. And so I believe in the power of stories to create a more inclusive world because I envision a world where every single person embraces their story. Because at the end of the day, we all have a story to tell. And every single person deserves to have the opportunity to tell their story in whatever way and however much they're willing to share. And that to me is the key to my success. I've embraced the good, the bad, the ugly. I've embraced all of who I am, all of who I've been, and all who I am becoming because every part of that informs my story. And I hope that my story is a story that can later serve as a blueprint for others who want to own their story and own their narrative and use that as a vehicle for creating change and creating a more inclusive world. Oh, there's lots of different stories I've told throughout the years. But I think the story that I've shared was the story I shared in my TEDx talk. How, when I was trying to please everyone and be liked by everyone, it nearly cost me my life. And it wasn't until I learned to put the mask off, to show up my full self, whether I was liked or disliked. It wasn't until I learned and hit rock bottom and nearly died that I realized I could not live a version of my story simply to appease these people. I had to live my truth. And so from that point forward, and every day since, I've survived that incident. I've chosen to be myself. And sometimes it looks like glam, like you see me today, glammed up with makeup. Other times it's t-shirts and shorts and no makeup. Other times it's butterflies and some rainbows and sunshine and glitter. Other times it's sadness and melancholy. And I get to be my full human self. Even though I'm a public figure, even though I do public facing work, I'm still allowed to be human. And it is in that radical authenticity, that radical honesty, that I feel people have been able to see themselves. because we all want to be liked. We all want to feel a sense of belonging. And sometimes in our efforts to be liked and to belong, we become versions of ourselves that aren't really us. And those masks that we put on to conform, to perform who we are, rather than be who we are, can become a point of constriction, suffocating, blocking our airways, blocking our voice and our ability to be our full selves. At some point, you have to decide to unmask yourself. And it's in the unmasking, in the authenticity, that I found my liberation. That their lives matter, that their stories matter, that we all have a purpose, and that we all play a role in creating a more inclusive, prosperous, healthier, global world, that we are all interconnected, and that there is nothing that separates my humanity from their humanity besides miles and miles of water, land, and air. And that together, as a global collective, when we recognize our shared humanity and our shared stories, we recognize that the world is more alike than different. And it's in our likeness, right, that we can stop the dehumanization, the violence, the oppression, the bigotry that so many people are facing right now around the world. Because it is harder to hate someone when you see themselves or someone you know in their story.